Welcome to a new video, and Rangiku is finally here! Yes, the thrust team is complete! Now every single team has a support! Great! Is she? We don't know, we will find out soon, right? But first, before we deep dive into the whole Rangiku kit and everything else, I have to correct myself and do a PSA here. Now, I have to set the stage real quick. If you haven't seen it, I did a set stamp guide. And as you know, I really try to be relatable for free-to-play and low spenders. I myself spend around 50 bucks a month, except for Eisen, but we don't talk about that one. And I try to do my content around that fact. The main reason why I invest money into this game is first and foremost, it's super fun to play. And secondly, because I want to give a real assessment if B1 or B2 is even worth it, right? And if the weapon is needed and everything else regarding it, so that I can give you the best information possible when it comes to characters. But also because it allows me to spend more Jade and more resources to do testing. And as you know, I really like theory crafting, and the main reason why I like theory crafting is because I can bring you content which helps you develop your own account. As every account is different, it makes it really difficult for me to do to generalize things, right? Because generalizing things means that you omit some information to the viewers. For example, let's talk Bankai Ichigo, right? If I say, generally speaking, you want to go crit rate if you have this weapon, and then you have Kisuke and you have Byakuya, that's fine, right? Great, fantastic. Ultimate charge rate, whatever, and this works. Okay, what if you don't have Byakuya? What do you do then? Because my whole guide, my whole talking point about Bankai Ichigo is for having Byakuya, correct? So what I'm trying to do is, I want to give you tools when I do these kind of guide videos, so that you can learn for yourself and see what is important to your account, so that you can apply what I tell you guys about the theory behind it, and you apply them by yourself, right? And then if you need me, I can do follow-ups and I can answer questions and everything else, so that you can build your own account the way that you need it. Now, when I did the set stamp guide, I set the same standard there, but that I have one issue though. Prior to that, I did an extensive guide on Eisen. And as you know, I'm not a big whale. I still am constrained by resources, which means that if I choose to go into a hardcore deep dive into character like Eisen, and I do Blooming Sakura, I have his own immeasurable gap, which I, by the way, just sold. Don't ask. Don't ask. PSA, second PSA, always lock your stuff. Okay? Always lock your stuff. Never equip a character and unlock and keep it unlocked. Always lock your stuff, okay? Just as a PSA, I'm not going into details anymore because it's kind of embarrassing, but that's what it is. So if I do a deep dive into Eisen, he has 3 viable sets to use in different circumstances, in different type of availability of resources. His immeasurable gap, for example, is fantastic, right? But if you don't have the resources for it, because you have multiple battlefield characters that you have to equip, then Inner Fang is fantastic too. Because once you get the better Inner Fang for Eisen, you can just trickle down the other Inner Fang to Sajin, for example, or to Tozen, for example, right? And that's what I try to create when I do guides. Now, where I'm going with this is this. When I did the set stamp guide, I couldn't deep dive into the bond system. Even though the bond system is a fairly important aspect of your character. And thus, what I did is misinformation by correlation of things that happened in the game by testing Tozen and by doing a deeper dive into Tozen. What I mean by this is this. I said in the video that to enable the bond effect, you just need 150%. So even if you had 130 here, and you had the 20% from the core stamp, it would still activate. This is false. After having done the guide there, I started doing the guide for Gin and for Tozen. While doing that, I seen and spotted inaccuracies and inconsistencies with ailment damage corresponding to the bond system on both characters, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. So I went online on Reddit, and the guy there was doing some testing too, and he was at 130 exact, and he spotted that this part of ailment damage here doesn't get accounted for. It is active in the game, it's not multiplied, it's still what I said it was being added to the ailment damage, just that it didn't activate the bond. So this had me curious then, and I deep dived into the bond system. Fact is, this part here needs to be hit in the stats window here. If it isn't, the bond won't activate. Bond activates on equipment once you equip it here, and when it's active, it doesn't account for fluctuating stats while in battle. Why am I going on and on and on about this? Is because Rangiku has a mechanic in it that I also mentioned in the set stamp guide, and she gives 40% ailment damage bonus in her passive, I think it was, right? Yes, here it is. 40% here. So my theory was that when you build Gin, for example, this was an example that I made, is that you could go for attack here instead of ailment damage bonus, and then just use Rangiku if you have enough ailment damage in the substats to activate the bond. Not true. It doesn't work, okay? The same for Toshiro. His bond, this bond here, because my Toshiro has 24% crit, it doesn't activate this part here, even though my weapon gives me 30%. Really, really, really important. Okay, this has major implications on how you equip and how you stat out your character. So depending on the bond, you shouldn't make it only dependent on the bond, by the way. But if you're aiming for a certain bond and they have thresholds, make sure that you hit those thresholds. For example, on Toshiro, if you mine is equipped with crit damage. If you want to hit this because you are closer to 40% and you have crit damage in the secondary rolls, for example, aim for a crit rate so that you can get higher. If you can hit the thresholds, then hit them, right? And this is what I want to bring forward here. This is why I'm doing this PSA and why I'm going on and on about the whole theory crafting stuff, is because this is bigger implication on how you equip your characters with the set stamps, right? Bonds don't activate mid-fight. Okay. That has been 8 minutes of me rambling about the bond system and about my set stamp guide, but this is something that I want to keep player up with. I don't want to spread misinformation, and if I have a mistake somewhere in my videos, I will go back and re-evaluate what I did so that I can bring you always the best information possible for you to be judging about you, to make the right judgment call about what your characters need. Okay, with that out of the way, Rangiku. How do you get her? Fairly easy. Menu here, mailbox here, and then there she is. You get her one copy here, her weapon and her core stamp. We only max out her weapon and herself. We don't max out her core stamp, by the way. Which isn't that bad because the weapon is way, way more important. Then we have events here. We have the Sarite trial, which is new. It's a boss rush. It's time gated, but the rewards are fairly good. You get 80, you get 400 jades here. And then we have Pieces of the Past. We know this event, but we have new wallpapers here. And this gives 500 jade, so we are already at 900. But this is also time gated, by the way. This should all be able to be unlocked while the Gin banner is still here. And then we have the blind box. This is where you get Rangiku dupes. The way this works, if you haven't done this yet, you just do daily stuff. You consume stamina, spiritual power, you do the training supply, realm of mutation, whatever you need, and then you get coins, and these coins can be used to get rewards. And once you have all the 25 rewards, you jump to the next machine, right? And that's how you unlock her fully. Oh, we got a lot of jade here too, wait. 180 here. We have 60 here, 240, 360, so we have 1500 jade in total, which is awesome. Nice. What else? Ectoplasm, Stamplasm. Yeah, that's whatever. To be honest, this is kind of low. Where we are in the game, this is kind of low. You get 30 here, 30 here. Yeah, that's not enough. That's just not enough. Anyways, it's nice, I guess. You get 1500, so you can still make the decision if you want to go for Gin or for the next character. Oh, by the way, speaking of next character, we have official confirmation that the next character is Zaraki Kenpachi. I will have a gameplay video at the end of this video here, so you can check it out for yourself. I'm not going to talk about him yet because we don't know his typing, we don't know nothing about this, but presumably or speculatively he should be either Strike or Slash. Make with that information what you want, right? Now, Rangiku. Let's jump right into it. My Rangiku is not fully built, by the way, but it doesn't matter. It's just to showcase the main feature of her kit. Let me pull up my notes here real quick. Alrighty. With my notes pulled up, before we jump into it, I will just summarize the abilities, by the way. If you want to have the full description, I will have it on the screen as long as I talk about them, similar to my Eisen guide. So if you want to see the values and you're just listening to this, you may have to watch it, okay? Now, she has 3 key mechanics, basically, and they're fairly simple. Her main mechanic is Heineko's Assist, similar to Spectate, just with the difference that it's active from the get-go. The ash cloud here is the indication that it's active, by the way. Now, what does it do? It's quite simple, actually. It gives you 2 buffs, 10% damage reduction and 40% ailment damage, but it also enables the second part of her kit, which in this case is called Heineko's Mark. And if you're watching this 6 months from now, 1 month from now, and you don't have the ability to max her out, you may have to use her basic abilities. I haven't tested this out, but I guess you still don't want to use basic abilities for this, to be honest, because it's such a damage loss. Heineko's Mark can be put up in 3 ways. Using her last string of her basic attack, but the basic attack deals such a pitiful amount of damage that it's not even worth mentioning it. The second, and the better part to use this, is by using counters, as she applies 3 instead of 1. And the best way to use this is by using her technique. Before I use her technique, I have to disclaim this though. If you don't have a weapon, because you're not watching this right now, maybe sometime down the line, you have to tap it and you have to hold it. Depending on the amount, or depending on the duration of your hold, there is a different amount of marks that you apply to the target. This can be increased on the passive, which I will be coming to later. If you have a core stamp, you will be adding another 4 marks to the target. So at the current investment level of mine, if I press it, I can switch out because I have the weapon, and she applies 9 marks. Okay. But why is this so important? It's important because these Heineko's Mark are damage. Raw damage. She is not only a support, she is an offensive support. And she deals a crap ton of damage if you give her the right amount of tools to trigger this. How do you trigger this and why is it so important? You use techniques and you use special attacks to trigger it. Nothing else works to trigger it, but this works. The main way this Heineko Mark works is that it consumes them while using techniques and special attacks, right? But it consumes them and bases the damage on your on-field character. To showcase this, let me use Gin's attack and let me use Tozen's technique. As you will see, Ashblade on Gin, this was a crit, is 35k, and on Tozen's it was 28k. Why? Because Gin is my better DPS, has more investment. Okay? Really, really important. Another thing is, partaking to Gin, it accounts for how many technique points you have used. With a caveat. 3 points used, 3 marks consumed. Okay? Same deal, special attack. When he uses his special attack, he is doing 2 hits, which means... Oh well, it bugged out. I don't know why it's sometimes unreliable, but it should be 2 hits. Let me redo this, and let's see if it procs my 2 hits here. There you go. This is the 2 hits. He wasn't moving forward, so this wasn't counting for this. Anyways, this is how it works, right? You consume them by using your main characters, which means that you're doing that kind of damage to the enemy. If you can see this, I used my technique twice, and the Ash Blade is dealing basically the same damage as my technique. Quite crazy to think about this. Now, another big part of the Heinekus mark is that once you have the boundary 1, she gains ultimate charge by consumption of these marks. Okay? And it's quite important because her ultimate is the second part of her support. She gives thrust damage increase, 20% if you have no investment level 1, and up to 30% if you have her fully maxed out on her passive. And on top of this, if you have a A5 weapon, she gives another 20%. So she gives 50% thrust damage increase through her ultimate. If I'm not fully mistaken. That said, if you hear any noise outside of my window, by the way, I'm sorry about that. Now, her ultimate, you use it and you gain the buff here. Okay? Sometimes it doesn't register the ultimate and it gives you the buff at the end of the cast. Okay? This is really important. So make sure that you glow blue. As long as you glow blue, even if you don't see the buff here, you are under the effect of the ultimate thrust damage increase. Why is this important? It is important because you want to stack ultimates. You want to use Gin's Bankai into Hosen's Bankai, because then you have the thrust resistance downs and you have the maximum amount of damage possible. This means that if I do a run here real quick, you will see how much damage she can produce just by having her as a somewhat not built support. She's level 60, I don't have her stat stamp support built up, nothing, and she does such amazing things with it. I can use this, I will switch into her, we can chill here real quick and back into him. So his ultimate is ready, her ultimate is ready, his ultimate needs time, so I'm going to switch into him real quick. Now I'm going to trigger her ultimate. Let me switch back to here. I will be using his Bankai. Ideally, we won't have any downtime on the thrust damage increase, but with my current build, we will have this, so I'm just showcasing what the burst looks like. Just going to burst here real quick, a little bit. I'm not following a strict rotation, by the way. I'm just going to showcase the damage that it's able to be done thanks to her. We switch back into her. We have the battlefield skill. Let's do it like this, right? There we go. Okay, so quite a lot of damage. Quite good damage here. 600k from here. And then we have another 300k, basically nearly 1,000,000 damage just passively, just by having her with us, right? And we deal a lot of damage here. A lot of damage here. Look at this impale damage. Crazy stuff. Now, I will redo this just to showcase. This is a level 90 build Kisuke. Just to showcase the difference here, I will start ideally with Tozen into Kisuke. I didn't hit the Gigai, sadly, but that's okay. We're going to continue. We didn't pay too much attention to a perfect rotation with Rangiku either, so that's fine. We're going to use his ultimate here. Because we can guarantee a 100% uptime of the ultimate of Kisuke, we don't have to care about his ultimate being overlapping with anything else. So we can just full on do damage with Gin here. We're going to use this, switch back into Kisuke. Now both are ready. Let me build up my attacks real quick here. We're going to use his ultimate into his ultimate. Technique. Bursting here, and then we are going to switch over to Gin. Switch over to Gin. Use his ultimate. And this is with fully built Kisuke. If you compare this, the damage that I dealt with Rangiku was quite awesome, if I'm being honest. This is a fully built Kisuke, B2, compared to a B1 Rangiku? Did I put the boundaries in her? Yes, I did put the boundary in her. So, as you can see, a B1 Rangiku still lacking a lot of damage to be provided, but still, she doesn't have anything else. She has not her Ascension on 5, she doesn't have her weapon on 5, so as an SR, she is keeping up. She's a really, really great support to be having, and she is compared to B2 Kisuke, right? With that said, let's jump right into her sets and her set stamps and her skills. I have leveled them up just because I'm curious about the max values that she is going to have here. But if you're on a budget, if you're free to play, don't level up her counter, don't level up her basic, don't level up her technique. She doesn't deal that much damage. You have to level up her ultimate because leveling up the ultimate increases the thrust damage bonus that she gives, and you have to level up her passives. Her main passive here increases Heineko's mark you apply with the technique, and Bone Crusher increases the Ash Blade damage, which is especially important if you go for the whole B6 on her, as her B4 will be able to increase Ash Blade damage even further. Which is why I'm so hyped about her, because I cannot wait to test her out in a full B6 with proper sets. I think she is great, she's fantastic as the thrust dedicated free-to-play support. Now, there's two ways to build her. The first way is the budget version. The first way is to give her Kisuke stamps, right? And you build her full ultimate charge rate here, and you build her ultimate charge rate in the substats until you can guarantee that one technique and consuming Heineko's marks gives you 100% uptime on the damage buff, right? That's the one way. The second way to build her, and this is especially true once you have her B2, is to go for ailment damage in the main slot, and in the substat, and ultimate charge rate in the substat 2. You don't care about attack, she's not here to deal damage. Your main DPS will deal the damage for her. If you go for the ailment damage part, it's important that you are going for the Mocking Visage one, because you gain an extra additional 50%, and then you also want to have the dedicated Gin and Matsumoto bond active, right? Because then you are guaranteed to have 150% ailment damage, another 40% here, you are already in 190%, then you go into the fight, you get another 40%, and her B2 gives 30% of her ailment damage to everybody else. Great stuff. Really great stuff. With her B2 built this way, you can basically give 100% ailment damage bonus to Tozen and Gin. Insane to think about it, by the way. Crazy good. Crazy good, okay? And that's basically it. Her weapon deals... Oh, I'm sorry, it is by Ashblade hits. So anytime you hit Heineko's mark, the thrust damage is increased either way. It's not based on the ultimate, I was wrong there. It's just the 30% damage bonus of thrust damage bonus is based on the ultimate. So this is basically dealt by using her Heineko's mark. And this is the part that I mentioned by having the Byakuya style of attack, right? Her core gives her ultimate charge rate, which is fantastic if you can get dupes of it. I think it caps out at 50%. Also, it increases her ultimate damage, which is whatever. Maybe once I build her fully, it helps. Also, interestingly enough, her primary stat here is ailment damage bonus. Okay, so building this out already when you have her B2 gives some ailment damage on top of what you already have. Really interesting core stamp here. And that's basically it. That's the guide to Rangiku. Fairly simple character, not much to it. I hope this was of help. If you already have played with her, let me know in the comments down below what you think of her. What did you think of the kit breakdown? Do you like her? Do you not like her? And yeah, that's basically it. Thank you so much for watching. See ya in the next one. Bye.